I think it'll be fine. We're here with Cheyenne and me. But I'll keep it on the DL. I'll have it like here. Yeah.
University of Portland. This is the UP Jazz Combo. That was Red Clay by Freddie Hubbard. That features Sam Staver on the piano, Luke Gunnels on guitar, and Daniel Leone on tenor sax. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. Those of you who went to the Montage concert, thank you for coming back. Y'all just needed more jazz. Yeah, thank you for coming back, and those are coming for the first time, welcome. And we're gonna get into some blues 5-spot. It's a tune written by Thelonious Monk, and sound pretty good for you. was Blues 5 Spot, written by Thelonious Monk, that featured Kyrie Stewart on trumpet. Luke Donald's on guitar. And myself, Alejandro, on alto sax. I'm going to take a quick minute to introduce the band. Again, this is Kyrie Stewart on trumpet. There's Daniel Leon on tenor sax. Sam Staver on piano. Palmer Riggs on bass. Luke Gunnels on guitar. And Michael Hogger on drums. My name is Alejandro Santana. We're going to close it out for you guys with Footprints by Wayne Shorter. You have Synesthesia is kind of more of an ethereal tune. It might sound a little like sulfur, if y'all were here earlier today. But anyway, yeah, we're going to close it out with this one. And yeah, this is the UP Combo Ensemble, or Combo Group, under the direction of Ryan Marr. Go and stand up. Oh, yeah, this is Footprints by Wayne Shorter. guys so much for being here. That was Footprints by Wayne Shorter, featuring Daniel Leone again on tenor sax. Sven Stammer on piano. And Palmer Riggs on the bass. Be sure to stick around for the big band. We're going to take a little break to set up for that. You definitely don't want to miss that. So sit back, relax, and see you in a minute.
I am not Don Norton. He's usually the ensemble director here. My name's Jessica Smith, and I'm just so glad to be here today, and always. This group of young people has been a blast to work with the last 5 weeks or so. We have a lot of fun together, and we play a lot of cool music together. So you just heard a tune of mine. I'm a composer-arranger, and it's called Silver Rush. It was a commission for the 2024 Reno Jazz Festival, which was kind of cool. But you just heard from, who did you hear? Braulio and Kai and Mackay, the trumpet battle. I have this evil plan with my rhythm section. We have 2 pianists, we have 2 bass players, and I think they have to switch every single song. I should have thought about that when I programmed it, but anyway, I'm going to tell a lot of jokes to give them time. It'll be great. This next one is a really beautiful piece. It's an arrangement of mine. The original composer's name is Matt Finders. He used to play trombone and bass in one of those late shows like years ago. And he's a wonderful composer himself, but he said, hey, I want you to arrange this. The tune is called Finderwimens. He's the only man in his immediate family. He has daughters and a wife and all that, and he just loves the women in his life. So you're going to hear from Alejandro on alto and Daniel on tenor. This one's called Finderwimens. Thank you so much. Let's hear it again for Alejandro and Daniel, and a little bit from Erilyn on piano. I love teaching. I teach middle school band full-time, and my day has gotten better as they get these wonderful musicians. I'm not saying hot cross buns isn't great, but it's been a day. But this next tune, I came in with the educator's cap on. I didn't know I was ever going to write music when I was these folks' age. I was just going to be a professional saxophonist. And it was really cool the first time or two that I got to actually arrange music on my own, write my own things, and it turned into a pretty good job, honestly. People ask me to write music, and I can do it. So I wanted to just pass on some of that stuff to these wonderful young people. So I came in with that educator's cap on. I said, all right, we're learning a tune by ear. And some of them went, oh God, like, well, we need to read music, right? And others were like, I can do this. So it was just great that we all came together, learned a tune by ear, learned some backgrounds by ear, and then I threw some more music at them later. But this is pretty much arranged by the band. We have little fragments, and we decided what order to put them in, and it's going to be fun. But this is a tune by Juan Teasel, who was a trombonist in the Duke Ellington Band, and you're going to hear a little bit from this lovely young person, Kira, on our vocals. So welcome, Kira. This one's Perdido. what's going to happen. Thank you so much. You heard again from Daniel and Alejandro, and you heard from Sam over there on piano. And something I've never done before, a euphonium solo in a jazz ensemble by G'day. I might have to change the norm and just write euphonium parts for everything from now on, because that's pretty cool. I found out backstage that I was supposed to announce every student's first and last name, and I'm actually a little bit scared. So I'm going to do little chunks. This is what I do with my professional band. So I'm going to start with my favorite section. I was looking for a drum roll, but Michael's just excited that it might be him. Yeah. And good, the rhythm section has shifted. Did you see that? We're going to start with the low brass. So we have Gio on bass bone, EJ on third bone, Diego on lead bone, and then of course our euphonium player, Udai. If you want to hear their last names, come back in November. I'll know by that point, okay? Great, so we want to feature Kira on another tune here. This one is an arrangement of mine. I wrote it for my grandmother, who passed away in 2017. It's an old, just traditional hymn called Just a Closer Walk with Thee. And I put it in a shuffle style, and it's happy and it's sad all at the same time. And you're going to hear from Diego on trombone, and help me out, guys. Yeah, I already forgot. Kai, of course, at the beginning. And Sam's going to play, and Layla over here on the 5-string bass. It's going to be great. Did I forget anyone? 6-string? I don't know how to count. It's been a day. 6-string bass. This is Just a Closer Walk. Gosh darn it, I love music. That's fun. It's time for me to waste some time while the rhythm section does their little hamster dance back there. So I introduce the saxophone section to you. This is Daniel and Dietrich and Sabrina and Alejandro and Michaela and Emma and wait for Emma too. And while I'm at it, why don't we learn who the trumpets are? Yes? Yes? Okay, there we go. You heard from Kai on that last one, and then Kai, don't get them confused. And then Luke, not that Luke, but this Luke. And then Braulio over here. Give it up for the trumpet. Okay, hopefully you're having fun. We have a couple more numbers for you. This next one is the stereotypical ballad, right? We've got to have a ballad in the show. This is also for a grandmother of mine who passed away. So this one is for my great-grandmother named Ellen. She was famous for her lemon meringue pies. Lemon meringue fans? I don't like lemon meringue. Sour cream lemon is far superior. But she had great lemon meringue. It looked beautiful, I'll tell you that. But you're going to hear some soulful, soothing, tear-wrenching sounds from Alejandro, if you couldn't guess. You just This is a song for Ellen. Did it sound like lemon meringue? Thank you, yeah, I got some people that like it. Alejandro's chopped out now. We'll give him a couple seconds while our bass players do the hamster dance. Do you remember the hamster dance, anybody? That website with the hamsters? There's one, no? Oh, okay, on Thursday next week I'll show you guys. One more section that I have not introduced you to, but we are nothing without them. So on piano, Sam, you gotta come out here again. Yeah, smile for the people. That's Sam on piano, and Erin on microphone. And then you just heard from Layla on that last one. Rish, go back here. Yeah, that's Layla. And then Palmer. We got some Palmer fans. Good, and then the other Luke on guitar. For fun, we should have you switch instruments next week, just to see. And then Michael on drums. Michael and I grew up in the same town. We went to Sugarhill, I went to Rogers, Spokane, Washington. Spokane people? Cool. This has been a treat. I hope that you've enjoyed the selections this evening. If you did enjoy it, please come back in November. I think it's November 14th. I think so. A whole new group of a lot of music of mine, but also a bunch of other stuff. I have secrets planned for the band. Am I forgetting to do anything? What does Donnie do usually? Thank you for coming. Thank you to our sound and audio and lights and all those people. Thank you to the family members that come and they supported all these lovely young people. Family members. I'm gonna stop talking. This last one is called Hobo Flats by one of my very favorite composer-arrangers of all time, Oliver Nelson. You're going to hear from Palmer on the bass, a little cool little intro, and later, and then you're going to hear from Luke, and then Diego, yes? Did I forget anyone? Can I speak now or forever? Palmer again, don't forget Palmer. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.